You know, they say you'll find love when you least expect it, and I believe that because every single morning when I wake up and look in the mirror, I tell myself, today is the day that you are finally going to find love. And that's why I've been single for the past 10 years. Hello, and welcome back to Binging Last Season, where I didn't expect to have a theme today, but it reminds you that, like your loving parents watching you get a liberal arts degree, some surprises make you go, alright, I guess. And I know what you're thinking. Celery, isn't it 2 months too late for a Valentine's themed video? But have you considered shutting the fuck up? I watched 2 unexpected love stories this week, so that's what we're talking about. And the first one was Sakamoto Days. Now, I had no expectations at all with Sakamoto Days. I just knew it had something to do with the mafia, and I wanted to watch the second most popular thing from winter to see if this one actually deserved the hype. But the opening sequence in episode 1 lays it out pretty clearly. This chubby guy on the box art is one of the most deadly hitmen on the planet, but he gets out of the business because he meets a woman, falls in love, has a family, and decides to run a convenience store. It ain't that easy to get out of the business though, and the rest of the runtime is an action comedy about hitmen and assassins. It's 11 episodes, but I swear, with the amount of rewinding that you are going to do for this show, it feels like 13. Now, I don't normally do this, but I'm gonna add a small spoiler section here for the opening sequence of the show, for the first few seconds, because something happened that just left my jaw on the floor, and I could not believe it was happening, so if you don't want to have that spoiled for you, and I think it might be better to watch it blind, skip over to whatever I put on the screen. The opening sequence of action scenes showing off Sakamoto as this deadly hitman is basically set to You Say Run from My Hero Academia. It's not the exact song, but it might as well be, and I felt like I got hit by a flash grenade. I had no clue what was going on. I was like, wait a minute, is this legal? First of all, like, this is clearly meant to be the same song. I felt like All Might was about to show up, and in a way, he kinda did. Sakamoto hits like a truck. It is so satisfying to watch him punch stuff. It feels like God put him on this planet to, well, he doesn't exist, but it feels like he put him on the planet to punch stuff, and he put me on this planet to watch him punch stuff, and it almost makes me okay with the fact that I've been single for a decade. And on that note, Sakamoto Days does not care a wink for realism. They will happily skip over realism for the sake of better fights or funnier scenes. I think that is objectively a good thing. Just because your show is about the mafia and hitmen doesn't mean it has to be exactly realistic. Season 1 was a great action comedy, and Season 2 is coming out in summer, so we can expect more of the same. I gave it a 9 out of 10, but notably, it is a very well-rounded 9 out of 10. It is better than Solo Leveling in my opinion because this show has it all. It brings the action, it brings the funny, the characters are all awesome, the enemies are all awesome, and I'm looking forward to what the rest of the show has to offer. The second pleasant surprise that I watched this week was Nihon e Yokoso Urufu-san, or Welcome to Japan, Miss Elf, a fantasy anime about a young 20-something Japanese man who is gainfully employed, always clocks out on time, and has a healthy sleep schedule. Yep. That's definitely a fantasy. Ever since he can remember, Fantasy Man Kazuhiro has found himself in another world when he goes to sleep, going on all sorts of exciting adventures, but one day he realizes it may not have just been a dream when his elf friend from that world wakes up with him in his apartment in Japan. They make the shocking discovery that they can both freely travel between worlds when Kazuhiro goes to sleep, and I made the shocking discovery that vanilla romance can actually be good. See, a vanilla relationship is just normal. It's just a normal standard relationship. There's no 7 evil exes you have to fight. There's no relentless bullying from one side to the other. There's no cosplays and erotic photo shoots. It's just a standard relationship that someone might expect to end up in, unless they're an anime fan and then they expect to be single forever. And most anime don't portray vanilla relationships because it's not exciting to watch. Why would you watch a standard relationship play out in an anime? There's nothing crazy going on. There's no hook to keep you invested. It's just normal people doing normal things and being pleasant with each other. There's nothing exciting about that. But the excitement in this show doesn't come from their relationship. It comes from showing this elf around modern Japan, around Tokyo and other locations, showing her how cool this world can be, and then these two going back to the fantasy world to have all sorts of adventures together. That's where the excitement comes from. The relationship is just pleasant. and surprisingly so. I didn't realize how nice it would be to have a normal romance subplot in anime until it happened, and I like it when anime does that. I like it when they give me something that I don't expect, but that surprises me and makes me feel nice. Hell, this romance is so normal that it doesn't actually pick up until they get back to Japan and she realizes that he's actually 25, whereas he's 16 in the fantasy world. And speaking of switching between the worlds, this show has damn near perfect pacing. I don't know if that's the exact right word for it, but at no point does it feel like they spent too much time on either side. Sometimes they would spend entire episodes in Japan or in the fantasy world, but it didn't feel rushed or slow at any given point. It just felt like a very natural progression of time, which doesn't always happen. It definitely wasn't flawless though. In my opinion, the scenes in Japan were actually better than the scenes in a magical fantasy world, which seems difficult to do if you think about it, but they just didn't flesh it out that much. They didn't really, invest too much in the fight scenes that were going on in the other world. There was only one that was really good in my opinion. It was more about this elf being a tourist in Japan, which, it's in the name. I shouldn't be surprised. But lovable characters and a sweet romance made this surprisingly effective tourism advertisement an enjoyable watch for me, so I gave it an 8 out of 10. It's a little bit closer to a 7 than a 9, but not by much. I really enjoyed it. It was sweet, it was fun, and it made me miss Japan a lot. That's it for this week's episode of Binging Last Season. I'm going to go do my daily affirmations in the mirror, and I'll see you guys next week.